It is the most wonderful time of the year. The holiday season is in full swing. Work is starting to wind down for our corporate baddies, and all of the major music publications are releasing their best of 2025 lists, albums, songs, artists, you name it. And some are spot on, but some feel like they were written by someone who skimmed the track list once on airplane Wi-Fi. And some of them are so wildly off base that you genuinely wonder if we were all listening to the same albums. But here's the thing, they're personal. They reflect the moments we return to on repeat. The albums we played through breakups, through wins, through late nights finishing work that we definitely should have started earlier, through travel days, slow mornings, first listens that left us speechless, and songs that stopped us in our tracks. This year gave us pop country confidence, electro-pop gems, genre-blurring experimentation with classical scale, island-rooted storytelling, industrial heartbreak, nostalgic daydreams, up-and-coming artists stepping into their power, icons redefining their sound, and voices that cut through language and geography to hit a universal emotional nerve. These 10 projects aren't just the ones with high streams or flashy headlines, they're the ones that built worlds. The ones that balanced chaos with clarity, made bold swings feel effortless, and proved that pop is not a formula but a spectrum with room for innovation and individuality. They're the albums that define 2025 for me, so here it is, my list of the 10 best pop albums of the year. The records that earned their spot because they stayed with me long after that final track faded. The number 10 album of 2025 goes to Justin Bieber's SWAG. SWAG is the closest that Justin Bieber has come to fully realizing the sound he has been orbiting for years. Beneath a sprawling track list sits a stellar 10-track album, waiting to be carved out, one defined by moody R&B textures, retro synth shimmer, and production choices that finally play to his natural strengths. Bieber has always had an ear for vibe. He's crafted an entire career out of it. Here, he leans into it with real intention. His voice becomes part of the architecture, pitched up, spliced, and layered as texture rather than simply a vehicle for melody. And the result feels like the most confident sonic identity that he's delivered yet. Moments like Yukon, Devotion, Too Long, and Daisies showcase the version of Bieber that many listeners, including myself, have been waiting years for. Atmospheric, thoughtful, and rooted in restraint. These tracks build a world you want to stay in. He may not go as deep lyrically as the mood suggests, but he does touch a lot on fatherhood, marriage, and what that life has been like for him, the ups and downs of it all. But the sound itself feels like a breakthrough in its own. SWAG proves Bieber has reached a new level of musical direction, trusting tone and texture as storytelling tools. If the future showed him trimming the excess and zeroing in on this lane on SWAG 2, I would say that that was a perfect project, but it didn't. But there is somewhere buried beneath the track lists a refined, grown-up, deeply compelling album that feels closer than ever to what Bieber is able to accomplish. The number 9 best pop album of 2025 goes to PinkPantheress Fancy That. PinkPantheress Fancy That feels like the moment she finally steps into her own world with the lights fully on blasting. The confidence hits immediately with Illegal, one of her strongest openers to date and one of the best songs of 2025, capturing that rush of adrenaline that her music has always channeled, but with more clarity and intention this go around. She still leans into sampling, but here it's less a nostalgic wink and more a storytelling device. The samples aren't references for the sake of recognition, they're stitched into the fabric of the rhythm and the structure of these songs, reshaping the past into something that sounds completely hers. What makes Fancy That exciting is how it marks the evolution of an artist who once felt defined by viral TikTok snippets and now commands a full album with proper direction. The writing feels sharper, the hooks land harder, the mood is still dreamy and detached, but now there's a weight behind it. PinkPantheress on Fancy That proves she's not just a product of the internet moment that introduced her, but she's more than that. She's building a lane, refining it, and inviting everyone else to keep up. The 8th best pop album of 2025 goes to Sabrina Carpenter's Man's Best Friend. And I know that may surprise some of you, but this is why. Sabrina's rise to the top of pop has been fast and incredibly intentional. After Emails I Can't Send debuted, it hinted at her blend of humor and heart, and Short and Sweet turned that promise into full-scale superstardom. The arrival of Man's Best Friend, though, just 1 year later, brought fair questions about pace and purpose. The album may not have the instant culture-shifting singles of its predecessor, but it lands as a cohesive body of work and a confident follow-up that shows that Sabrina knows exactly who she is right now. What anchors this era is the persona she has sharpened over the last few years. There is a Lolita Sabrina-like wink baked into her writing and delivery, wrapped in the vintage Hollywood poise of a 50s or 60s starlet. It feels nostalgic without being dated. Tracks like Tears, Sugar Talking, a personal favorite of mine because that melody is so infectious, When Did You Get Hot, and House Tour capture that balance really well, proving that she can turn comedy into craft without reducing the emotional stakes whatsoever. Some of the record's mid-tempo stretches blur together a little bit for me personally, and there are moments where the bit starts to show its seams. Man's Best Friend solidifies her lane, but it also suggests that her next chapter may benefit from a shift or surprise. If this album confirms her identity, the most exciting possibility is what happens when she pushes past it. Now, Man's Best Friend being a number 8 may surprise you, but I ultimately return to this album less than I do Short and Sweet. Short and Sweet was undeniable hit after hit after hit with Juno, Sharpest Tool, Bad Chem, Please Please Please, Espresso. Almost every single song on Short and Sweet has single potential if it wasn't already a single. The album Man's Best Friend is incredibly strong. It plays to Sabrina's strengths, like I said. It feels like her pen is sharper than ever, but I felt like the bit of Sabrina being this comedic but also sassy but also a really talented superstar performer is kind of reaching its ends. I'm really curious to see what she's going to accomplish next with her next official release. The 7th best pop album of 2025 goes to Lorde's Virgin. Now, this album kind of came and went relatively quickly, even with What Was That being a really sharp lead single. But Lorde's Virgin feels like the opposite of Solar Power in all of the right ways. Instead of breezy, space, and warmth, this album is tightly wound and industrial leaning, where every second feels deliberate and urgent. It's raw, personal, and sometimes uncomfortably honest, touching on body dysmorphia, sex, grief, family, and the ongoing tension between public persona and private identity for the superstar. The production mirrors that vulnerability with glitchy edges, cracked vocals, and sudden bursts of light that cut through the heaviness in the best way. The standout moment on Virgin has to be David. This is the runaway song from this album. It was my favorite song on first listen. It is a stunning closer that captures the emotional core of the album with clarity and tenderness. Tracks like Hammer, If She Could See Me Now, and Shapeshifter reinforce the feeling that Virgin isn't a return to her past eras, but a transformation of them. It plays like a snapshot in time rather than a neatly wrapped narrative, revealing an artist who is shedding, shifting, and stepping into something that feels both painful and born again. Now, while this may not live up to the shadows of melodrama, I'm not really sure if Lorde will ever be able to recapture that beauty, but this is a step in the proper direction after Solar Power. The 6th best pop album of 2025 goes to Miley Cyrus's Something Beautiful. This was actually my second most played album of the year, and on Something Beautiful, Miley Cyrus explores a thrilling, explosive body of work that stands as by far the most compelling album of her career to date. It feels like the first time every version of Miley across the last decade plus folded into one fully realized artistic statement. The sound is massive, engineered with incredible detail, shifting through pop, glam rock, disco, trance, funk, and synth pop without losing its emotional core and center. The title track is definitely a standout of the year and a mission statement, which begins in a smoky jazz pocket before erupting into distortion and chaos in a way that feels shocking and earned after every listen. Golden Burning Sun, my number 1 song of the year, glows with warmth and wonder and beauty, while the drums on Pretend You're God hit with a primal force that makes the record feel alive and breathing in real time. It may be a kaleidoscope of genres, decades, and textures, but it's that very chaos where its thesis emerges. Something Beautiful finds clarity in the mess, honoring the contradictions, the past lives, the softness, and the destruction that come with being human. Miley's voice has never sounded better. Her presence has never felt larger. She may not have the best writing on this album. She isn't chasing single after hit single or streaming moments that are going to last a lifetime, but she's building a world where the result is bold, rewarding, and proof that there is beauty in letting life's messes collide in one. The number 5 best pop album of 2025 goes to Addison Rae's album Addison. Her debut project. If you had told me 5 years ago that Addison Rae would have an album, let alone in the top 5 of my year, I would have never believed you, and I'm so happy to be proved wrong because this project was so awe-inducing. Addison felt like the rare pop album where the mood board genuinely came to life in all of its original intentions. The Janet and Britney Spears influences, the glossy Y2K futurism, the tabloid-era pop star energy, and the bratty confidence that she picked up getting close to Charlie XCX over the last few years all feel incredibly clear and intentional. The growth from her early releases is undeniable. This sounds like someone who knows exactly what this record should be, how she wants to be seen, and what her voice brings to the table. It is so rewarding to hear a project from an artist this sure of her goal and able to execute it incredibly well. The highlights are so strong. Headphones On, one of the best pop songs of the year, shows a glimpse behind the curtain of Addison Rae, touches on her parents' divorce and opening a more personal side of her story in the album's final moments. In the Rain is the underrated standout here with its 80s inspired glow and a final section that will stick with you for hours and days to come. Fame as a Gun brings that sharp electro-pop edge that fits the album's concept perfectly in the lane of Britney Spears' Blackout and In the Zone eras. Addison does not pretend to be something it's not. It hits its marks, embraces its lane, and positions her as an artist with a real vision and the confidence, very importantly, to follow it up. Fourth best pop album of 2025 goes to Olivia Dean with The Art of Loving. It brings me such happiness that this album is as good as it is because Olivia Dean is an artist that I randomly stumbled upon 3 years ago, almost to the day. I was scrolling through Spotify Discover Weekly and came across her song Danger, and I was instantly stopped in my tracks thinking to myself that this girl is going to become one of the most famous artists on the planet that will last a lifetime of a career, and I'm so happy that in 2025 that is finally starting to happen. It's been a slow but steady burn for Olivia Dean over the last few years, but it really started to kick off with Nice to Each Other taking off in the UK over this past summer, following that up with the gargantuan single Man I Need that has continued to top charts throughout the rest of the year. It's still lasting in the top of the global streaming charts, even with all of the Christmas music that we're hearing, which proves its staying power. But Olivia Dean has spent years building to this moment, and The Art of Loving proves that promise that first put her on the map. Her voice remains her strongest asset, rooted in soul and youth, somehow feeling both familiar and completely new at the same time. The album explores love in all of its many forms, from the playful early sparks captured in lead single Nice to Each Other to the sweeping emotional scale of Man I Need, which has become her first true global breakthrough. Dean writes with a sharp eye for intimate detail, bringing you into the room with her, and the production gives her room to let those stories breathe with excellent live orchestration and instrumentation. Her layered harmonies become the architecture of these songs, supporting and surrounding her lead vocals in a way that adds emotional weight without ever feeling showy. What makes this album stand out to me is how confidently she moves between genres without losing her identity. So Easy to Fall in Love, a massive single from the project, has a bossa nova lift, while Close Up pulls from classic soul and jazz with an outro that I still have in my head. Baby Steps grooves like something pulled from a dusty 60s vinyl. The closer, I've Seen It, strips everything back to voice and guitar, proving that no matter the arrangement, her storytelling carries the moment. If Messy, her debut album, introduced her to the world, The Art of Loving announces her arrival with extreme clarity and focus. It feels timeless yet entirely grounded in this moment, positioning Olivia Dean not just as a rising artist, but as someone ready to stay. If you caught that reference, you're a real one. The third best pop album of 2025 is Lady Gaga's Mayhem. This was my most streamed album of 2025, and the year that Lady Gaga has had with Mayhem has been unbelievably exciting to witness. Lady Gaga's Mayhem opens with a jolt. The early stretch is dark and grungy and chaotic and full of the kind of bold choices only Gaga commits to full force. It blends sadness with release and pulls from every corner of her catalog. You can hear the pop star charm of The Fame and the power of Born This Way and the electronic pulse of Chromatica inside this project. But the energy here feels lighter and more instinctual than its predecessor Chromatica, like she finally stopped worrying about expectation and followed the spark that started off her early work. It is by far the best Lady Gaga album since Born This Way. And the highlights here prove why. Abracadabra, which was crowned the best pop song of the year by Rolling Stone, is a total knockout. Vanish Into You earns a spot amongst her greatest love songs, while Killa with Gustaffelstein pushes into brash, confident territory. Love Drug is an underrated pop gem begging for more conversation. The back half may dip slightly with The Beast and Don't Call Tonight, but it hardly affects the overall impact. Mayhem is loud, emotional, surprising, and refreshingly self-assured. It finds beauty amongst the chaos and reminds you exactly why Lady Gaga remains one of pop's most exciting risk-takers almost 2 decades into her career. Number 2 goes to Bad Bunny's DTMF. DTMF is the second best album of 2025. From the first note of Nueva Yol, you know DTMF isn't just another reggaeton album. It's a homecoming, a love letter, a soul search through Puerto Rico's rhythms and collective memory. Bad Bunny lets tradition speak through salsa, plana, dembow, and urban beats, but he does it without nostalgia alone. He pushes forward, weaving modern production with cultural roots to make something alive, vivid, and raw. Reviews have called it his most vulnerable work to date, full of yearning, that nostalgia I mentioned, pride, and political bite. But what hits hardest is the balance between danceable grooves and emotional weight. There are songs that pull you right into the party here with horns, percussion, island heat, but then there are songs like DTMF, quietly reflecting on heritage, exile, memory, and longing. It's part heartbreak and part celebration, sweaty, sweet, and honest. This album doesn't just invite you to dance, it asks you to remember, reflect, and belong. DTMF might just be Bad Bunny's most resonant, culturally rooted, and emotionally honest record yet. Now, the best album of 2025 goes to Rosalia with Lux. From the opening moment of Berghain, released as the project's lead single, you knew you were stepping into a full-on sonic adventure with Lux. The album feels like the work of an artist completely sure of her direction. There is no doubt here whatsoever. Blending classical orchestration with experimental production to create something that feels daring yet inviting, and a project that only Rosalia could put together with her classical training and her modern sound. Sung in 13 different languages, this album proves a point that many artists aim for, but rarely are able to achieve. The best music goes beyond lyrics. It lives in the emotion, the delivery, the tone. You don't need to understand every word to feel what she is saying. I don't understand 99.9% of this album, but you still felt everything that she was trying to convey. The music crosses language and location, and it hits on instinct. But what sets Lux apart is its ability to feel intimate and massive at the exact same time. The opener pulls you right into her world with striking piano and reflections on life, death, and everything that hovers between. A personal favorite of mine, Sauvignon Blanc, is a calm, stunning love song that glows quietly. Divinize takes the experimental approach further, stitching classical and futuristic ideas with precision. This is not an album for the background. This is an album that requires your full undivided attention, and it asks for it and gives back the emotion, extreme detail, and depth that you're looking for. Lux confirms that Rosalia is operating in a rare air, completely in a league of her own, and she delivers it with an ethereal ease. So those are my takes on the 10 best pop albums of 2025. There were plenty of other albums that I listened to that I loved this year that ultimately didn't crack the top 10, but I want to give a few special shout outs. Doja Cat's V is an album that I'm consistently returning to. I loved the way that she took the 80s inspiration and made it her own with classic Doja flair. While the 80s moment has kind of passed in pop and general music, that may be why this album didn't live up to the commercial expectations, but this is one that I consistently have in rotation still. Somber's I Barely Know Her. What a year for Somber with the breakthrough success of Back to Friends, Undressed, 12 to 12. We Never Dated is another one that I loved. I think I look back on this project maybe a little bit more fondly than most did. I gave it, I believe, a 7 out of 10. And I felt like this album felt like Somber really stepping into his own with only so much more room to grow and evolve as an artist. Pretty Idea by Amber Mark is one of the best pop albums of 2025. It is glossy, it is self-assured, it is confident. Cherry Reds is one of my most played songs of the year. It feels like you were laying in a beautiful field of just flowers and sunshine and basking in it with the person you love most. She is somebody I am 100% watching for what's going to come in 2026. I think she has a ton of potential. I got that similar feeling from Amber Mark that I got when I first came across Olivia Dean 3 years ago, and she is someone that I really hope has a great 2026. Joe's album, The Crux, and The Crux Deluxe are albums I've consistently had, and I appreciated how much Joe took a break from the electronic, the more experimental production choices of his last 2 albums to go a little bit more earthy, a little bit rawer. On The Crux, diving deep into his emotions. You hear a little bit of Carole King, LCD Sound System on The Crux and The Crux Deluxe. Love both of those. Those I were listening to actually yesterday in full. Love them. Continue to return to it. Adele's EP is one that you definitely need to check out if you haven't yet. I'm blanking on the name right now. I think it's called The Provocateur. She is someone who is really pushing that boundary of what's considered pop music and like mass appeal pop music with an edge and a flair that will definitely make a mark in 2026. Jade's album, That's Showbiz Baby, and the Encore that just recently dropped were one of the best projects of 2025 that just missed the list. It is a student of pop music. She is bringing everything from Madonna to Britney to Gaga, all of her influences on one project. Some of these songs are the best pop songs I've heard, and I don't even know how long. Angel of My Dreams is one of my favorite songs of last year. You have It Girl, Plastic Box, Unconditional. Her cover of Madonna's Frozen is fantastic. The new single off of the deluxe edition of the album Church is fantastic. Use Me is a dance floor heavy moment that she shines on. I feel so much potential coming from Jade as we head into 2026 and beyond. But those are just a few more albums that made an impact on me in 2025. There are plenty more where this came from, but I really want to know from you guys what you think of the ratings, how you feel about this ranking that I put together, any more underrated projects of 2025. Sound off in the comments and let me know. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all for the next one.